When the Rockets completely transformed their roster over the offseason, I'm not sure anyone on the planet knew what to expect. You're taking a team that won 22 games and finished with the third worst record in the NBA, adding multiple veterans and a head coach with NBA Finals experience, yet you still have a young core of raw talent that hasn't really had a chance to be optimized. If I told you that team would start 0-3, you probably wouldn't be surprised. But to then win 6 straight, now that's an impressive feat. And there are so many different factors you can point to as a catalyst for their success, such as Dillon Brooks turning into the second coming of Steph Curry, or Fred VanVleet setting the table like a point god. But what's jumped out to me is how the new and improved Rockets under Ime Udoka have utilized and ultimately unleashed Alperen Sengun in the middle. So, what exactly has changed in Sengun's approach? I mean, his touches and his post-up volume have been virtually the same. He isn't all of a sudden knocking down a bunch of threes, but where you'll find a stark difference is in how much he's being used in the pick and roll. What you're looking at right here is the amount of points per game he's scored as a screener every season since entering the league. In his rookie year, he was just under 2, went up to about 3.5 as a sophomore, and through 12 games this season, he's all the way up to almost 8.5. Just for some perspective on how ridiculously impressive that is, the NBA started tracking pick and roll scoring in 2016, and Sengun is currently scoring more than any other player. Only one other guy was over 8, and that's Joel Embiid in last year's MVP campaign. This is where a guard like VanVleet makes a huge difference, because in order for the big to score in these situations, it requires a ball handler who can not only pressure the defense himself, but also make the right decisions to create those opportunities. The first thing you'll notice with Sengun as a roller is that he's extremely aggressive, not afraid to test anyone at the rim. Zach Collins plays in a more perimeter-oriented coverage, meaning that it's a longer recovery, and Alpi takes advantage by taking off early and puts him on a poster. Here's another one just like that, where PJ Washington shows to the ball before attempting to recover from Sengun's side, but this time because the defense is coming from his right, he's gonna take off with the left, and it's the same result. When rolling downhill, Alpi not only welcomes contact, but actively seeks it out. Sabonis actually does a great job of getting back in front of the roll to slow his momentum, so he just jumps right into the body and uses an outstretched arm to kiss it off the glass. I think the reason he's able to deal with contact so well is that he has some of the best body control you can find from someone of that size. He fumbles the catch on this one and finds himself in an impossibly tough situation, only to fold his upper body backwards like it's a lawn chair, and that gives him an angle to softly push it in. While these aggressive rolls are incredibly effective, they actually aren't even the biggest threat after he screens. Much like his idol Nikola Jokic, the in-between game is where he makes a living, torching bigs with quick-hitting floaters over the top. His float game is very unorthodox, almost going to an Olympic shot put type of motion as he effortlessly feathers these in from as far out as the free throw line. To start this year, Sengun's hit an impressive 58.5% of his shots from 3 to 10 feet, which is right around where Jokic landed in his first MVP season. And Joker's the king of this territory, so that's some nice company. That type of efficiency from a touch further allows Alpi to consistently punish bigs who sit back in a deep drop coverage. Mark Williams does a great job of taking away any downhill momentum, but that's just too much room for the 21-year-old. So what ends up happening more times than not is that when Sengun catches the ball in the middle of the floor, an extra defender is forced to step over and close that space. But he's also one of the best passing bigs in the league, so that creates some problems. He reads the defense incredibly well in these spots, and almost always makes the right decision. You can see that his first instinct is to kick it to the left corner, but when two Pelicans close out, he fakes that pass and instead moves it over to Dillon Brooks up top, with nobody there to contest. It's not just about countering the defense, but actively manipulating it. Van Vliet gets blitzed, meaning that Sengun gets the ball with a 4-on-3 advantage. He stares down Jalen Green at the top of the key to freeze Cole Anthony at the nail before skipping it cross-court to Reggie Bullock for a quality 3 from the corner. Some of these passes are truly next level. He again gets the ball in a 4-on-3 situation, and from this frame right here, it seems like the obvious decision is to kick it to Dillon Brooks. But Alpy sees the game differently, instead using the open Brooks as a tool so that he can instead drop a nasty dime to a cutting Jabari Smith. He'll also weaponize the threat of his short roll passing to open up more scoring for himself. Doug McDermott has to slide down from the corner to pick up on a drive, so he pulls a rondo and fakes a behind the back pass to move the help on his way to a dunk. I started my breakdown by talking about his aggression as a roller. It's the exact same thing when putting it on the deck on drives. It looks like Jokic has mitigated any advantage created by the initial action, but Sengun sees a few feet of space and attacks it by dropping a shoulder into Joker's chest, which generates enough separation to comfortably float it in. In the event that the initial ball screen actually doesn't create any lane to attack, then they can just play through him in the middle of the floor. This time it's a little give and go to get Jalen Green some space so that he can step into a jumper. I think running more offense through Alpy in these types of setups has really helped unlock Jalen. Instead of forcing him to make a ton of tough decisions and high-level reads as a playmaker, now he's able to lean into what made him such a highly touted prospect: his freakish athleticism and talent as a scorer. You can see that effect on a play like this, where Jalen bursts downhill on a drive, effectively collapsing the defense, and Terry Rozier drops down from the weak side wing to tag Sengun in the middle. Now, a true lead guard would probably make the tough skip pass to an open Van Vliet, but Green doesn't see that, instead hitting the big man who's capable of making that read for him, connecting the offense so that Freddie still gets a good look from 3. The speed of Sengun's decision making when it comes to capitalizing on small windows of opportunity can't possibly be overstated. It can seem so subtle, but when Jalen gives up the ball, he doesn't even really cut, just kind of floating into open space. The defense falls asleep, and just like that, he's got an opportunity to score at the rim. This one starts from out of bounds. In a 1-point game with 46 seconds left, it looks like Sengun's sealing position so that they can get the ball in play. But while catching the ball in midair, he recognizes that there's a soft spot in the defense directly under the rim, and floats it in with pinpoint accuracy as he creates a layup out of thin air. Earlier this month, the Rockets played back-to-back games against Sacramento, and it was very clearly a point of emphasis to attack Kevin Huerter as much as possible. Notice how they clear an entire side of the floor so that Dillon Brooks can steal off Huerter in the low post. And because Sengun's holding the ball up top, Sabonis isn't in position to rotate down and offer help. From there, all it takes is an entry pass, and that's some more easy offense. Here's another example. In transition, Jeff Green gets cross-matched with Huerter and looks to establish position, but Van Vliet doesn't really have an angle to make the entry. So he moves it over to Sengun on the wing, who without hesitation makes that interior pass. And it's some more of the same. Again, it's all about making instant decisions, and because of how many different spots he's comfortable operating from, those decisions can be literally anything. Here's one where he gets the ball out in space, immediately dribbles into a two-man game with Van Vliet, lands the screen and rolls but gets caught off, then turns his back to the basket and goes to a little spinning push shot. If you haven't caught on by now, Sengun's a guy who's capable of stuffing the stat sheet, in the same way you can be stuffing your pockets this Thanksgiving. I've been told a number of times that people who like to bet on games will use my videos as a reference, and if you're looking for a place to cash in, look no further than MyBookie. To celebrate the holiday, they're offering their biggest sportsbook bonus ever, a deposit match of 110%. No, that isn't a mistake. You can more than double your deposit right now up until November 26th, and I've got you guys with the hookup. All you have to do is go to the MyBookie website and sign up with my promo code HoopVenue. You won't be able to find this deal anywhere else. They've got all kinds of different parlays, a custom prop builder, and a seemingly endless amount of ways to have a good time. With MyBookie, you can bet anything, anytime, and from anywhere, so I'll leave a link in the description for anyone interested. And with that being said, let's get back to Sengun's game. I talked about how he blends scoring and playmaking together in a number of spots, and that's especially notable when he's operating out of the post. Like I mentioned earlier, he's more than capable of playing through contact, and he's got a pretty nice set of moves he can go to. Here's one where he turns over his left shoulder, going through the body of Wagner to set up a finish. And here's virtually the exact same setup, setting up on the right block with an open corner, except this time instead of turning over his left, he's gonna fake that spin with a little shimmy and go to a jump hook with his offhand. Because he can turn over either shoulder, there's no way of predicting what he's gonna do. When he backs his way in close and turns over his left, it looks like he's going to a right-handed hook, only to fake and readjust his body so that the left becomes his outside hand, and now he's gonna hook it up and in. That multi-directionality also means that he can counter whatever a defense throws at him, like here where a double team comes from the middle, so he ferociously spins baseline, going right into the chest of Hachimura to set up an easy 2. Here's one where he actually starts backing down with a right-hand dribble, re-angles his body and turns it into a left-hand dribble, and when a double again comes from the middle, he's gonna go to that shimmy, this time setting up a fall-away jumper. And in the event that he does draw that added attention, or just finds himself in a tough situation with no easy look at a score, that's when you'll see the passing, finding cutters or shooters for a high-quality offense. While most of Alpi's creation is done in the post, I also think he's got a decent face-up game. Houston will often set up actions with him initiating from this position. This time it's a simple flare screen and another one of those pinpoint passes as Brooks knocks down a triple. When there's no action being run or any pass to make, that's when he'll call his own number. On this one, it's an explosive rocker step to set up a baseline drive, and when he gets cut off, he's just gonna go right through Sabonis like he's not even there. My favorite part about these face-up isolations though, is that they've given birth to maybe the coolest signature shot in the game right now, and that's his one-legged mid-range jumper. This thing is absolute money, and it's something he can literally always fall back on. I also think because of how comfortable he's gotten with it, that's inspired him to lean into the mid-range game a lot more, which then in turn has helped him up his volume as a scorer, currently averaging more than 20 points a game, a pretty decent jump from the 14.8 he recorded last season. As for his overall shooting, the indicators don't really bode well. I like that he's willing to take the open shot, but up to this point he's been a pretty bad shooter from the free throw line, is a career 28% from 3 on a diet that's pretty much all open looks, so there isn't much going for him in that department. What I will say though is that because of the way he attacks space and uses contact to his advantage as a slasher, it's difficult for defenses to leave him with a ton of room on the perimeter. So in that way, he does still sort of space the floor at times. I also wanted to briefly touch on a couple of other things, like his ability to play with pace. He runs the floor very well, especially for a big, and because of the way he reads the game, he's not just a threat to score, but create for others in transition. He's also an absolute menace on the offensive glass, getting after second chance opportunities like every possession is his last, and those usually lead to high quality shots. So it's just another way for him to add some value. And finally, I wouldn't feel right without at least mentioning the fact that I think he's looked a lot better on defense, and that's directly helped the Rockets to where they currently stand as a team, third in the NBA in defensive rating. When everything comes together in the way it has, unleashing him in the pick and roll, the big jump in his counting numbers and efficiency across the board, the improved defense, and much better team performance, you're left with an early candidate for most improved player. Whether or not he'll make enough noise to separate himself from the pack, or even earn some buzz for an all-star team, only time will tell. But the leap is here, he looks incredible, and I can't wait to see how the rest of his season pans out. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Sengun. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.